Girlfriends made adulthood in your 20s look fun, fearless, and full of promise. But 25 years later, time has rewritten every story behind the screen. From shattered marriages to serious illness and sudden loss, the cast has endured more than viewers ever imagined. As we uncover where they are in 2026, some stories will truly shock you. Golden Brooks as Maya Denise Wilkes. Golden Brooks was born on December 1, 1970, in California. At 30 years old, she played Maya Denise Wilkes, the sharp-tongued, fiercely honest working-class voice, in Girlfriends, 2000 to 2008. Maya's blunt humor and emotional candor grounded the series, giving it a realism that connected laughter directly to lived experience. That realism mirrored Brooks's own life once the cameras stopped rolling. She was never married but shared a long-term relationship with actor D.B. Woodside, and the birth of their daughter in 2009 was followed by a painful separation. As roles after Girlfriends became less predictable, including later television work such as Heart of Dixie, motherhood increasingly took precedence over personal ambition. The emotional cost of that shift accumulated quietly. While maintaining visibility through films like The Darkest Minds and dramatic television performances, Brooks has acknowledged periods of exhaustion tied to career uncertainty and single parenting. Those pressures refined her acting, replacing outward bravado with restraint and emotional gravity. Today, Golden Brooks is 56 years old and continues working steadily across television and film. Her estimated net worth of $8 million reflects a career sustained by persistence rather than spectacle, the result of adaptability, resilience, and a life shaped by responsibility more than recognition. Tracee Ellis Ross as Joan Clayton. Tracee Ellis Ross was born on October 29, 1972, in Los Angeles, California. At 28 years old, she played Joan Clayton, the ambitious, self-made lawyer and emotional anchor of the group, in Girlfriends. The character's emotional honesty and quiet authority shaped the tone of the series, allowing the story to move beyond comedy into something intimate and enduring. That carefully constructed image of control carried directly into her personal life. Ross never married and has no children, and as her visibility expanded through later success in Blackish, romantic relationships struggled to coexist with a career that demanded permanence and public presence. Professional momentum often arrived faster than emotional stability, creating a private imbalance she has acknowledged without romanticizing it. That imbalance eventually reached her body and mind. As her workload intensified with projects like The High Note and producing responsibilities, Ross spoke openly about living with ptosis and about the psychological weight of constant observation and online mockery. Rather than retreat, she leaned into discipline through meditation and yoga, using routine as a way to regain control when the pressure became relentless. Now, Tracee Ellis Ross is 54 years old, still actively acting, producing, and running her hair care company, Pattern Beauty. With an estimated net worth of $16 million, her life forms a continuous narrative of agency, choosing independence, sustaining creative authority, and redefining fulfillment outside traditional expectations. Reginald C. Hayes as William Jerome Dent. Reginald C. Hayes was born on July 15, 1969, in Chicago, Illinois. At 31 years old, he played William Jerome Dent, the sharp, analytical professional navigating masculinity and vulnerability, in Girlfriends. William's emotional restraint and moral conflict grounded the series, offering a rare male perspective shaped by responsibility rather than bravado. When the series ended, the sense of stability William projected on screen dissolved in Hayes' real life. Never married and suddenly without a long-term contract, he faced prolonged financial instability that forced him into survival mode, including living in his sister's garage for years while auditions dried up. Even as Girlfriends gained renewed visibility through reruns and streaming, Hayes struggled quietly, taking sporadic guest roles and watching industry attention move elsewhere, despite the cultural weight of the show he had anchored. The accumulated pressure eventually became physical. In 2010, Hayes was hospitalized with congestive heart failure, a crisis that halted his momentum and forced a reckoning with limits he had long ignored. Recovery unfolded alongside a careful return to acting through projects like Black Lightning and later Abbott Elementary. By 2026, Reginald C. Hayes is 57 years old, working selectively in television while prioritizing health and stability over visibility. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his life reads as a study in endurance, proof that staying alive, present, and working can be a harder victory than fame itself. Persia White, as Lynn Ann Searcy. Persia White was born on October 25, 1972, in Miami, Florida. At 28 years old, she played Lynn Ann Searcy, the free-spirited, intellectually restless artist, in Girlfriends, 2000 to 2008. Lynn's unpredictability and emotional openness gave the series its countercultural edge, constantly challenging stability, ambition, and conventional success. That spirit carried into her personal life, where emotional security often proved fragile. Persia married poet and musician Saul Williams in 2008 after years together, but the relationship collapsed within a year, leaving deep fractures around trust and emotional grounding that echoed through her later work and music. In 2014, she married actor Joseph Morgan, a relationship that brought steadier balance after years defined by intensity rather than permanence. The weight of those emotional shifts found expression in her body of work rather than illness. Projects like The Vampire Diaries and her album Mecca reflected a woman processing identity, loss, and reinvention, while her later music leaned further into vulnerability. Activism and creative control became stabilizing forces, allowing her to channel emotional strain into purpose rather than decline. Today, Persia White is 54 years old and remains actively engaged in music, environmental advocacy, and independent production, including the album Love Letters. With an estimated net worth of $2 million, her life reads as a continuous search for meaning, less about commercial dominance, more about emotional truth and conscious impact. Jill Marie Jones as Antoinette Tony Childs. Jill Marie Jones was born on January 4, 1975 in Dallas, Texas. At 25 years old, she played Antoinette Tony Childs, the glamorous, sharp-tongued real estate agent in Girlfriends, 2000 to 2006. Tony's unapologetic ambition and emotional volatility injected tension into the group, transforming personal conflict into one of the series' most potent forces. That fierce independence reflected Jill's real life. She never married, and although she maintained long-term romantic relationships, none survived the constant friction between trust and career momentum. After leaving Girlfriends, she pursued film and television opportunities such as The Perfect Holiday and later Monogamy, a period marked by reinvention that often came at the cost of emotional security and continuity in her personal life. As roles became darker and more demanding, the emotional toll deepened. Projects like Ash vs. Evil Dead and later, The Chi required sustained intensity, pushing Jill to rely on discipline and self-containment rather than external support. These challenge was sustaining relevance without losing herself in the process. Now, Jill Marie Jones is 51 years old and continues working steadily as an actress and producer. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, her story reflects measured persistence, a career built on choice, resilience, and a refusal to let one iconic role define the totality of her life. Khalil Kain as Darnell Leroy Wilkes. Khalil Kain was born on November 22, 1964, in New York City. At 36 years old, he played Darnell Leroy Wilkes, the grounded, working-class husband navigating pride and responsibility, in Girlfriends, 2000 to 2006. Darnell's quiet realism anchored the series emotionally, balancing humor with the weight of everyday survival. That realism was drawn from lived experience. Khalil married and later divorced, and raising two children after the separation introduced lasting tension around responsibility and emotional distance. As acting opportunities slowed following Girlfriends, financial pressure compounded personal strain, forcing him to rethink both career direction and stability. The stress eventually turned physical. In 2010, Khalil was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, a life-altering moment that reframed his priorities and creative output. Recovery coincided with a shift toward writing and storytelling, including his stage play Lambs to Slaughter, where violence, loss, and accountability became central themes rather than background noise. Today, Khalil Kain is 62 years old, living and working selectively as an actor and writer while prioritizing health. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his journey reads as survival over spectacle, a life reshaped by hardship, reflection, and the decision to keep telling stories, even when the spotlight dims. Keesha Sharp as Monica Charles Brooks. Keesha Sharp was born on June 9, 1973, in Rochester, New York. At around 30 years old, she played Monica Charles Brooks, the composed, ambitious professional who later becomes William's wife, in Girlfriends, 2003 to 2008. Monica's presence shifted the series into a more mature, emotional space, confronting commitment, power balance, and the quiet negotiations of long-term partnership. That on-screen stability closely mirrored her real life. Keesha married actor and singer-songwriter Brad Sharp in 1997, and their marriage has endured for over 2 decades while raising a son together. Even so, balancing family life with a demanding career created real pressure, especially as her visibility grew through high-profile television work like Lethal Weapon and recurring roles that required long shooting schedules and constant relocation. The pressure never surfaced as a public health crisis, but it shaped how she worked. As her career expanded into film and prestige television, including Marshall, Keesha relied on discipline forged through years of musical training and stage performance, choosing structure and control to manage fatigue and sustain momentum rather than stepping away from the industry. Today, Keesha Sharp is 53 years old, still actively working as an actress and television director while developing personal creative projects behind the camera. With an estimated net worth of $2 million, her journey reflects longevity built on balance, preserving a stable family life while allowing her career to evolve steadily instead of burning out quickly. Tanner Scott Richards as Jabari Wilkes. Tanner Scott Richards was born on November 8, 1992, in Westwood, California. At 8 years old, he played Jabari Wilkes, the young son navigating divorce and instability, in Girlfriends, 2000 to 2006. Jabari's quiet presence added emotional depth to the series, grounding adult conflicts in the vulnerable perspective of a child caught between them. Behind the scenes, that early exposure came with real strain. Long hours on set collided with school obligations, placing pressure on Tanner's education and emotional development at a formative age. Alongside Girlfriends, he appeared in shows like ER, experiences that reinforced professionalism early, but also accelerated responsibilities most children never face. As he grew older, the intensity of early fame did not escalate. Instead of chasing continuous visibility, Tanner gradually stepped back from acting after Girlfriends, allowing the momentum of childhood recognition to fade by her choice. That retreat marked a deliberate effort to reclaim balance and privacy after years defined by adult schedules. In 2026, Tanner Scott Richards is 34 years old and lives largely outside the spotlight. With an estimated net worth of $500,000, his story stands as a quieter counterpoint to child stardom, shaped less by sustained fame and more by the decision to step away once the cameras stopped rolling. Kendra C. Johnson as Jabari Wilkes. Kendra C. Johnson was born on December 26, 1976, in Hartford, Connecticut. At around 30 years old, she played Jabari Wilkes, the quietly observant child caught between adult conflicts. in Girlfriends, 2006 to 2008. Her restrained performance gently shifted the series toward emotional realism, reminding viewers that adult choices leave lasting impressions on younger lives. That sensitivity echoed her own path. Raised in a working-class household without industry connections, Johnson advanced through persistence rather than momentum, moving from television into film work that demanded resilience and adaptability. Roles in Fat Girls and appearances across network television marked incremental progress, culminating in broader recognition through Love Thy Neighbor. The challenge, however, lay in sustaining rhythm outside the mainstream spotlight. Long gaps between projects and the need to balance opportunity with financial stability shaped a careful professional cadence, with selective roles in independent productions and television reinforcing a career built on endurance rather than exposure. Each return to screen carried the weight of patience earned over time. Today, Kendra C. Johnson is 50 years old and remains active in acting and creative work, primarily across television and independent projects. With an estimated net worth of $800,000, her story reflects steady survival. Richard T. Jones as Aaron Waters. Richard T. Jones was born on January 16, 1972, in Kobe, Japan. At around 34 years old, he played Aaron Waters, the composed, authoritative presence entering the group dynamic, in Girlfriends, 2007. His role added gravity to the series, introducing maturity and consequence into romantic and professional storylines. That gravity echoed his personal life. Jones married Nancy Robinson in 1996, and although they share children, the relationship later fractured, leaving emotional weight that coincided with demanding years of work across projects like Judging Amy and Why Did I Get Married? Divorce reshaped his priorities, forcing a recalibration between career ambition and family responsibility. The pressure accumulated physically as well as emotionally. Years of relentless television schedules tested endurance. Persistence became his defining trait as he continued securing long-running roles, including Hawaii 5-0 and later The Rookie, where authority replaced vulnerability on screen. Today, Richard T. Jones is 54 years old and continues starring steadily on The Rookie while maintaining a strong presence in film and television. With an estimated net worth of $4 million, his journey reflects durability, a career sustained by consistency, adaptability, and the ability to endure both personal loss and professional demand. Jason Pace as Dr. Todd Garrett. Jason Pace was born on February 24, 1974, in New York City. At around 29 years old, he played Dr. Todd Garrett, the charming, quick-witted plastic surgeon and Tony Child's husband, in Girlfriends, 2001 to 2006. Todd's romantic idealism and eventual marital strain deepened the series' exploration of love, class, and expectation. That on-screen marriage closely paralleled the phase of life Pace was entering off-screen. In 2004, he married actress Ossie Taylor, and the responsibility of building a family gradually competed with the unpredictability of an acting career. While Girlfriends delivered mainstream visibility, projects such as My Trip to the Dark Side demanded emotional vulnerability of a very different kind, forcing Pace to balance artistic risk with the need for stability at home. Over time, the tension between career momentum and family presence became impossible to ignore. That pressure reshaped his professional identity. After appearing in series such as The Mentalist, Pace increasingly leaned into voice directing, teaching, and psychology-based workshops, blending his academic background with performance. These shift away from chasing visibility toward sustaining emotional and mental health while remaining creatively engaged. By 2026, Jason Pace is 52 years old, still active across acting, voice directing, and education-focused creative work. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his path illustrates a conscious pivot, choosing longevity, family, and purpose over the volatility of non-stop fame. Dondré T. Whitfield as Sean Ellis. Dondré T. Whitfield was born on May 27, 1969, in Brooklyn, New York. At around 31 years old, he played Sean Ellis, the confident, emotionally complex romantic interest in Girlfriends, 2001 to 2002. Sean's presence brought charm and instability in equal measure, underscoring how ambition and affection often collide rather than align. That emotional tension echoed beyond the series. Whitfield married actress and director Sally Richardson in 2002, building a family while navigating an industry defined by inconsistency. Even as his marriage offered grounding, his career demanded constant reinvention, moving between ensemble comedies and dramatic roles such as All My Children and later film work that tested his range and resilience. As Whitfield matured into deeper dramatic territory with projects like Queen Sugar, professional pressure became psychological rather than logistical, centered on carrying emotional weight season after season. Writing, mentorship, and public conversations about masculinity emerged as outlets, allowing him to process responsibility and vulnerability without retreating from the craft. Today, Dondré T. Whitfield is 57 years old, still living and working steadily in television, film, and writing. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his story reflects endurance through evolution, sustaining relevance not by spectacle, but by adaptability, partnership, and purpose. Jenifer Lewis as Veretta Childs. Jenifer Lewis was born on January 25, 1957, in Kinloch, Missouri. At around 43 years old, she played Veretta Childs, the domineering, sharp-tongued mother of Tony Childs, in Girlfriends. Veretta's unapologetic control and emotional bluntness intensified the show's exploration of generational trauma, making her one of its most memorable parental figures. That performance drew directly from lived pain. Raised in deep poverty, Lewis survived childhood sexual abuse and long-term emotional neglect, experiences that later shaped the authority and volatility she brought to maternal roles. As her career expanded through television staples like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and films such as What's Love Got to Do with It, professional success often masked unresolved wounds rather than healing them. Those buried struggles eventually surfaced as illness. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder in 1990, Lewis lived for years in secrecy before committing to sustained therapy and medication, a process she later described as life-saving. Even decades later, her resilience was tested again in 2022 when a near-fatal fall in Africa left her critically injured, requiring emergency surgery and intensive care, yet she returned publicly with renewed candor and strength. Today, Jenifer Lewis is 69 years old, still active, celebrated as the mother of Black Hollywood while continuing advocacy and selective acting work. With an estimated net worth of $2 million, her legacy rests not only in iconic performances like Blackish, but in survival, transforming trauma into visibility, voice, and endurance. Phil Reeves as Charles Sweetelson. Phil Reeves was born on January 12, 1953, in New York City. At around 47 years old, he played Charles Sweetelson, the composed, calculating professional presence, in Girlfriends. His restrained authority added institutional weight to the series, grounding romantic drama in real-world power dynamics. That sense of control reflected a life shaped by intellectual discipline rather than chaos. Raised with strong academic expectations, Reeves pursued philosophy and theater with equal rigor, a foundation that carried him into character work across ensemble projects like Veep and later appearances in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Instead of chasing stardom, he cultivated longevity through adaptability and precision. Personal life followed a quieter rhythm. Reeves married and maintained a stable family life while navigating the unpredictability of a character actor's career, balancing writing, stage work, and screen roles without public scandal or collapse. The challenge was sustainability, remaining relevant without surrendering balance. In 2026, Phil Reeves is 73 years old, working selectively across television, film, and writing. With an estimated net worth of $1 million, his career stands as a study in steadiness, proof that endurance and intellect can outlast the spotlight's brief glare. Cee Cee Michaela as Yvonne. Cee Cee Michaela was born on May 1, 1970, in Hickory, North Carolina. At around 30 years old, she played Yvonne, the unpredictable, sharp-edged police officer, in Girlfriends, 2000 to 2002. Though her appearance spanned only 8 episodes, Yvonne injected volatility and humor into the series, briefly disrupting the group's emotional equilibrium and leaving a distinct impression despite limited screen time. That brief television visibility came after years of pressure, shaped by early exposure to the entertainment world. Raised between rigorous artistic training and financial uncertainty, Michaela pursued performance with relentless discipline, moving from stage work to screen roles that included strong medicine and guest appearances across network television. Yet momentum proved fragile, and sustaining a steady on-screen career required sacrifices that increasingly conflicted with personal stability. The strain was not medical, but existential. As acting opportunities narrowed, Michaela redirected her creative drive into music, authorship, and later wellness advocacy, releasing albums and writing books while processing the emotional toll of stepping away from mainstream visibility. Marriage brought grounding. She wed Wilbert Floyd, and the relationship offered balance after years defined by constant reinvention rather than rest. Today, Cee Cee Michaela is 56 years old, living and working actively as an empowerment speaker, wellness entrepreneur, and founder of Zuliana Nutrition. With an estimated net worth of $500,000, her story reflects a decisive transformation, leaving the uncertainty of episodic fame to build a purpose-driven life centered on healing, autonomy, and long-term impact. So after 26 years, the faces may have changed, but the stories behind them are deeper than ever. Who surprised you the most when you saw where the Girlfriends cast is now in 2026? If this journey from 2000 to today moved you, like the video, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments, because some stories don't end when the cameras stop rolling.